Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining our UEZ SAGE training session. Today's training, we will review a number of topics, everything from how to initiate an application to how to submit the application, what forms need to be completed, how to go about completing those forms, and we'll even show you a few tips and tricks about finding or accessing historic information in SAGE if you wanted to see what was submitted in years past. For starters, we're going to log in. You'll notice as soon as you log in, there are a few different quadrants on the landing page. In the upper left-hand side, there is a message letting you know that any attachments that you submit cannot exceed 5 megabytes in size. On just below that area is a task list. This will start to populate once we initiate an application and begin moving things through the process of application through submission. On the right-hand side, there's an initiate application section. This is where we're actually going to begin our process. And then there's a quick link section below, which, well, this is where you would go to access old RFPs or old grants in order to see what had been submitted previously if you're looking for some sort of point of reference. With that said, we're going to go ahead and initiate a UEZ project for the city of Vineland. So I come down in my drop-down menu, I come down to Urban Enterprise Zone Vineland 2022. I click Apply for a new grant. As soon as I click this and I confirm OK, it has now generated the application form or the start of the application form for a UEZ project. I'm going to take a quick second and jump back to our Start menu. If I go back to the Start menu, you will see now where there was nothing before in our task list, there is now an application in process. And this will stay here all the way until the point of application submission. Once an application is submitted, it will disappear because that application is now with UEZ for review. In order to jump back into my application, all I need to do is click on the application number, and it brings me to my application form. As we had mentioned in a previous session on a SAGE orientation, the application form is broken into the left side and on the right side. The left side is where you kind of set the baseline for your application, and there's some high-level information about what the program is going to be doing, where your service areas are, who has access to your application. We can create the budget on this side. And then once we've selected our program component, on the left-hand side, we'll see a growing list or a changing list of application forms. Those forms are dependent on what project component is selected. If you selected admin budget, there are certain forms that are required. If you selected a project for another type of UEZ project, there are different forms that are required. With that said, we're going to switch back to the left-hand side, and we're going to start with the contacts, then we'll move down to components, and then we'll jump back up to application information, and then ultimately to the budgets. So I'm going to go into contacts, and you'll notice with all of these groupings, these bulleted items, if I click on any one of these links, the next page that opens has tabs inside that page that correlate to these bullet items. So if I click on Control Access to Application, you will see that I have application contacts, email grant contacts, grant contact email history, which is what was on the Start menu. Sorry about that. Control Access to Application, send an email, and email contact, email history. So for this purpose, I'm going to add somebody to Vineland. So I'm going to add Sandra. We were going to make her a staff member. And here's where you can control the access level. somebody all the way from administrator all the way down to just a viewer. For this purpose, I'm going to make Sandra a form writer, which means she could complete the forms, save them, but she cannot submit the application. I now click the button that says Grant User Access. And you'll see that Sandra's name now appears below mine, and I can just kind of keep adding more and more people from my particular municipality to an application. I will go back to the application menu, and I will now go through and fill out the project components. So if I click on program components, this is where you actually get to select what type of project it is you are going to apply for. So we have administrative budget, and then we have a number of other project types such as acquisition, construction, eligible municipal services, and such. Each one of these will require a separate set of forms to be completed. So we'll go with administrative budget. This one is going to be Vineland admin budget. We will fill out the address information. And just as a reminder, as with any system, any field where you see a red asterisk, that is a mandatory field that must be filled out. If it does not have an asterisk, it is optional. When filling out the zip code, it's important that you include the 4-digit extension. I will save. I've now added my program component down here of administrative budget. You'll see on these other tabs, there are optional components. The UEZ program does not utilize optional components that I'm aware of, but you do need to complete the service area. So when you click on the service area tab, you can either select a county, or in the case of UEZ, you want to identify an individual municipality. So the way you do that is you select the county in which that municipality is located. So in this case, it's going to be Cumberland County. We click list. Now I have a list of all the municipalities within Cumberland County. I select the city of Vineland. I click add. And we have now added our service area. I go back to the application menu. I go back up to the first section, application information. If I click on the link application program description, I'm going to fill out information both on program description, objectives, and scope of services. So for the application program description, I will click edit. When I do that, these forms now become editable. So we will give this a title. We will give it a brief description. Save. Now I go to my project objectives. Now each project has to have at least one objective, but you can have multiple. That's really dependent on the program. For this one, we're going to say this is number 1. We'll say that it's the Urban Enterprise Zone Development Corporation. For a detailed description, are restricted to 500 characters for the description methods, and then 250 characters for performance measures. So please be mindful of that. We select the application program component that this objective is tied to. And in this case, it's going to be the Violent Admin Budget 2022, and we save. Now I have my objective down here. Had I added more, they would just continue to grow. If you ever need to edit an objective prior to submission, when you come in, you can click on the radio button, click Edit, and now I'm back in the form, can make my edits, and then save. Under Scope of Services, added a narrative for that scope. You're limited to 6,000 characters. We hit Save. Now we go back to our application menu. So we've completed application information, we've completed contacts, we've completed components. Now we're going to go on to the budget pages. So I click on budget. By default, since we're just starting out, there's nothing here to show. So in order to add line items, we need to select the program component. When I click on that, it's going to allow me to now add budget items. Click on the Add Budget Item tab. From here, I start building my budget. So I'm going to say, in this case, since this is an admin budget, we're going to do salaries and wages. We could give just a short description. You can provide more detail, but you're not required. Then you enter values into the fields for UEZ assistance, anticipated UEZ assistance, municipal funds, and other funds. So in this case, we're going to say that there's going to be $500,000 in salaries from UEZ assistance, and we'll say that there's going to be $50,000 in municipal funds. We hit Save. We now go to fringe benefits. We'll add another line item. We'll call this one fringe. Again, we could put a description if we wanted to. In this case, we're going to say UEZ assistance is $100,000. Municipal is, we'll say, $1,000. We will save. And then if we go back to either our budget summary or budget detail tab, you'll see that our line items are starting to build and we're getting a picture of our total budget. So right now we've accounted for $600,000 in salaries and fringe benefits, and we have some, the line items. If you want additional detail, you go to the budget detail tab, and you can put subcategories for your line items if you need that level of detail. We now go back to the application menu, and we can start to fill out the application forms. Now I want to note that one of the first items under this this list here is the application instructions, and this is always here by default. If you click on this link, it'll open up a PDF file that provides you instructions on how to use Sage step by step. I highly recommend that everybody open it, get familiar with it, download a copy and save it, just to have it on hand. It's a very good reference material. So the first form we're going to fill out is project information. Then we go to future UEZ proposals, attachments, personnel schedules, other sources of funding, a certification sheet. We get to see our budget again, and then we will submit. I want to call attention to that as we work our way through these forms, when you complete a form in full, this little icon of what looks like a piece of paper will turn into a green check mark. That's your way, it's the system's way of letting you know that that form is completed. If it's not completed, you'll see it'll turn into a little yellow triangle, and that's a little way of the system alerting you to the fact that that particular form is not completed. When you think all your forms are completed, you think you've got everything in order, I'll call your attention to a little icon down here called errors. When you click on that, this is going to list any form, any page where an error may occur. And right now we have errors on all our forms because we haven't filled any of them out yet. So the system is saying, hey, you haven't completed these forms. As we start to complete these forms in full, they'll all disappear. And then you'll get a screen that says there are no errors and you can submit the application. So I will go into the project information. I want to call your attention to some of the navigation within the forms. Each form is going to have a back button, a next button, a clear. Most will have a save. And what this does, this allows you to scroll through all the forms without having to constantly go back to the application menu. So if I hit next, I go from project information to project information administrative budget to future UEZ proposals to attachments and so forth. So we will put some information here for our project information. Save. I'll call your attention to the little drop-down menu. You can see that project information administrative budget now has a green check mark because this form is complete. So I will hit next. And this will take me to the next, which is future UEZ proposals. So we're going to say that we think we're going to have a future proposal of adding a firefighter. The description is that the salary continuation for one firefighter position beginning, let's see, July 2022. We need to identify each source of funding, including UEZ and the estimated amounts. I'm going to say UEZ 50, oops. Anticipated impact on the municipal tax base, we're going to say none. Can measurables be quantified? Yes, no, or not applicable. I'm going to say not applicable, and I'm going to hit save. We're going to go next. And now we are on the attachment section of the forms. Here we UEZ wants a fully executed city council resolution and a zone board resolution. Currently, your only options are to on the system allow you to select either to mail in or hand deliver the attachment. What's been decided is that you should check that you're going to mail in this attachment, but then utilize the option down here under miscellaneous attachments to actually attach those files. There is an agreement between the zones and if there's an agreement between the zone and the firm, they would want you to either upload a copy, mail an attachment, fax. We're going to say that it's not applicable for this purpose. We will hit save. Then we will move on and click next, go to the next form. So this is The Schedule A, personnel, this is where we get some of the detail of the actual personnel who are in the zone. So name of employee, go with John Doe, make him a firefighter. His date of hire we'll make was September 1st of 2022. Yes, he's eligible overtime. He's full-time. So he works 40 hours. All 40 are dedicated to UEZ. His salary is $50,000. Salary from UEZ is that $50,000. There's no municipal subsidy. For fringe, we'll say $10,000. Below here, they're asking for a job description and a resume. We can upload attachments. I don't happen to have attachments handy that I can attach that would make sense. So I'm just going to, for this purpose, say I'm going to mail these in. I then save. I click next. Now we are at other sources of funding related to this application. I'm going to say there are none. I will hit save. I will hit next. This is the certification sheet. This is where you're more or less certifying to all the terms and conditions of the particular program. So we will go through here and say I certify, yes, we understand, everything's yes. I'm going to say these are not applicable. I'm going to say that these are not applicable. Had I selected the item, if I say I'm going to upload this attachment, I must choose a file to upload. The system is part of the system validation that if you select you're going to upload something, you must attach that document. I'll call attention to there's green links next to each one of these, Schedule G, Schedule H, Schedule I. If you click on these links, it will take you to that specific schedule, and you can then fill it out, download it, scan it. If it's a fillable PDF, fill it, and then upload it to the system. But for today's purposes, I'm just going to say this is all NA. I will hit save. I'm going to go back to my application menu, and you'll now see that all my forms have the green check mark next to it, which indicates that I have completed successfully all my forms. I can go into the budget overview and take a look, see what's there. The last thing I want to do before I submit is I want to go back to the main menu, click on errors, and just to see, do any errors exist? If you recall from earlier, there were a number of errors because there were forms that had not been completed. Now that those forms have been completed, the system is saying no errors have been detected in this application. So now we are ready to submit. So if I go back to the main menu, I can now go up here and submit my application. I submit. I get a question, confirming that yes, I want to submit this application. There are some terms and conditions you must agree to. So you say, by submitting this application, you are agreeing to the following statements. You agree. You get a confirmation of application submission. And if we go back to the main start menu, you will see where you once had a task of your application that is now gone because you have now submitted it to DCA and it is in the hands of the project review team. During the course of an application review, if UEZ has questions, they can send an application back to you for corrections, for additional information, and in those cases you'll see a show on your tree, and again, once you submit it back to DCA, it will disappear. And that will go back and forth until your application is approved, and then it goes through the process and ultimately becomes a grant. just wanted to bring your attention to the quick link section. If you are looking to see, or you want to see an application from years past for your particular UEZ, if you go to the grant all or view all agency grants, and in this form field, if you select the program you're looking for, and in this case it's going to be the Office of Urban Enterprise Zones, you can specify a fiscal year or you can leave it blank, and you can even select the various statuses, but generally select Urban Enterprise Zone and hit search, and it will find every grant in the system for your particular zone. So in this case, these are all grants for Vineland for the years 2010 and 2011, and there's 9 in all. So I can go into any one of these. So if we look at, say, find an admin budget, I go here, here's my 2011 admin budget. If I click on that, I am now on the grant menu, and if I scroll down a little bit, I can go back to application menu, and on the application menu, I can now go to application PDF, and if I click generate a full PDF, the system will put together a PDF of my entire application, which I can then download, print, save, whatever you need to do. But it could be a good source of reference as you fill out your new 2022 admin budgets. You can just see what's been done in years past. So close that. I will go back to the start menu, and I thank you for taking time to watch this video, and good luck with Sage. Thank you.